This is Jacob Newell of Old Oak School of Tao, and this is a discussion on Wuweidao and the three turnings of the wheel of Dharma. I find, as often is the case, we can gain clarity by looking at Buddhist structures. So Buddhism is organized into these three turnings of the wheel of Dharma. Dharma means the teaching of the Buddha. And so the first teaching is when the Buddha lays out the basic foundation of his teaching and his path. And the second turning is when he goes a little bit deeper, thorough. And then the third turning is, okay, now that we have the thorough teaching, and now what? So the first turning is referred to as Theravada, which means doctrine of the elders. It is more commonly referred to as Hinayana, which is a disparaging term meaning lesser vehicle. Obviously, the Theravada practitioners do not refer to themselves as Hinayana. It's a disparaging term. But this original foundation teaching of the Buddha, call it the first turning, is basically the Four Noble Truths. And the Four Noble Truths say life is dukkha. Dukkha, dukkha, dukkha. So what does dukkha mean? Dukkha is discomfort. Dukkha is anxiety, kind of something not quite right. Usually dukkha is translated as suffering. Suffering is probably a bit of an aggressive word for dukkha. It basically means discomfort and unable to find lasting satisfaction. Dukkha. And the second noble truth is the cause of dukkha is desire, craving, I want, preference, like and dislike, and attachment to preferable conditions. And along with desire and attachment goes ignorance, not perceiving the true nature of reality. So we have life is dukkha, and the reason we find ourselves in a situation of dukkha is because we are not seeing things clearly, and we grasp onto what we like and push away what we don't like. So the third noble truth is the end of dukkha. There's a way out, says the Buddha. We do not need to continuously perpetuate this cycle And the cycle of dukkha, it comes out of Hinduism, where Buddha emerged in a Hindu context, which recognized everything is in transmigration, constantly changing, birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. And so the unsatisfactory nature of the endless cycle of birth and death, call that samsara. And so this third noble truth says there is an end to samsara, and we call that nirvana. The fourth noble truth is the Buddhist path, the path to end dukkha. And that path is broken into the Noble Eightfold Path. And the Noble Eightfold Path consists of right view, right intention, right speech, right conduct, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So this is the Noble Eightfold Path of the Buddha. And this characterizes the Theravada path. It also serves as the foundation of the second turning. And the second turning is called the Mahayana, which means a great vehicle. So the Mahayana is founded on the, call it Hinayana, the original teaching of the Buddha. But the Mahayana flips the teaching on its head and says, oh yeah, remember what I said about there's samsara, and if you follow the Noble Eightfold Path, you will go from samsara to nirvana. Well, that's not quite right. That doesn't really happen. There is no nirvana outside of samsara. So in that first turning, I was kind of giving you a little carrot here to kind of get you to harness yourself, to move toward this ideal. But as it turns out, there is this nirvana, it's not really there. And this samsara, that's actually not really there either. They're both empty. They arise from our mind. So what we see as samsara, what we see as a nirvana, those are both the same substance. So this means what we may have viewed as a gradual personal path of liberation, there's no path. Insofar as there is a path, the path itself is empty. So where we are, empty. This nirvana, where we're going for, empty. So the Mahayana does not recognize a distinction between where we are now. I'll pull out something from Zen Master Sung San. where we are now and complete reality. We are continuously abiding in an empty context. If this is the case, what are we to do? And the Mahayana says, moment to moment to moment, our job presents itself. If it is morning, we wake up, we do our practice. Maybe we make some breakfast. If the clouds pass overhead, we perceive the clouds. If somebody is hungry, we give them some food. If somebody is injured, we go and we help them. This is the Mahayana. And Zen Buddhism is expression of Mahayana. There are Mahayana scriptures. The Theravada, there are many, many scriptures. Mahayana, also scriptures. But the Zen transmission is not dependent on scriptural study. So we don't even have to read the scriptures because we recognize the substance of the scriptures and the substance of the leaves blowing in the wind, same substance. So we don't get to the Dharma through studying to get there. We're already there by nature. And so different Zen schools have different approaches to how to introduce us to this self-existing Buddha nature. Some methods might indeed be a kind of gradualistic methods to settle us into where we are. Other methods, more aggressive, wake up, wake up, wake up. Just different styles. But all part of this second turning. And the second turning is complete. But then there's this third turning. What is the third turning? So we had the Theravada or Hinayana, and we had the Mahayana or Zen. And then this third turning is called Vajrayana, which means diamond vehicle. And the Vajrayana is also called Tantra, the Tantric arts. Very, very important for us to understand that the Vajrayana, the Tantric arts, do not rest on a Hinayana foundation. They're not practices to go from samsara to nirvana. We don't take that view in the Vajrayana. The Vajrayana is founded on the Mahayana. So the high teaching and practice of Zen is to sit, and only that. And it is complete. The Vajrayana says, indeed. Now let us demonstrate the Dharma. Let us experiment with what we are. And to the extent that maybe we don't really believe the foundation of Mahayana. Maybe we understand it and we have some degree of faith that that is the case, But are we able to truly just sit? Are we dealing with some desires and compulsiveness, some kind of chi quirks that we are perceiving as obstruction to our direct appreciation of our nature? So the Vajrayana says, let us work those things out. So let's engage specifically light and sound. So maybe some kind of a chanting practice, a mantra. So tantra is a combination of two words. The meaning is like to weave, to kind of actively engage the fabric of reality, the fabric of ourselves. There's an active quality, and the tra is from mantra. So to engage mantric sounds or visualizations, or it can be a kind of movement practice as well. And so these three turnings, these three vehicles, they are further broken down into the 9 yanas. We don't need to get into that level of detail for our purposes here. I think 3 is sufficient. Now, sitting at the apex, the very 9th yana, the apex of the Vajrayana, is called Ati Yoga or Dzogchen. And Dzogchen means the great perfection. And so Dzogchen is the final culmination of the 9 yanas. But interestingly, it's not only arrivable through the yanas to get there. The view of Dzogchen is that actually without, it's the Mahayana actually, is without taking a single step, without doing any practice, our nature is intrinsically pure and clear and utterly calm and resolved. Nothing even needs to be resolved. And Dzogchen is just there, without any method, without any effort, without any intention, without any concepts of samsara or nirvana or delusion, enlightenment, liberation. Very, very high teaching, immediately accessible, yet elusive. And it circles back around to the so-called Hinayana, which is the beginning point again. So to the extent that we are unable to abide in unfettered, spontaneous openness and experience the luminous nature of reality, then the 4 noble truths come in. So where's our craving? Where's our attachment? And so it goes through an endless cycle there. But the high view of the Buddhist path then is that the cycle of the wheel of Dharma, it's happening within this context of what is the Dharmakaya, the body of the presence of our nature. So this is a wonderful teaching structure. Now, Taoism does not fit cleanly into this teaching structure. But I think we can look at this structure and then look at what is Taoism. And I think we can gain some great clarity. Certainly we need to in our tradition. Because our tradition, our lineage comes from Liu Ming. And Liu Ming was adopted into a family lineage of Orthodox Taoism that predates the influence of communism and the Chinese Taoist Association, and also predates the reforms of the Song dynasty. But let's face it, Taoism has been kind of in a mess for the past 120 years, probably the past 500 years. But the fall of the Qing Empire, followed by the 40-year almost civil war, and then the communist takeover, the Great Leap Forward, the Cultural Revolution, shambles. And now is coming back together. But it's coming back together in many, many different forms all over the world, which is both wonderful and maybe confusing. So I think this teaching on the three turnings can help us to navigate the confusion. So before Liu Ming was adopted into the Liu family, he was a Buddhist monk in the Dzogchen tradition. He had received Dzogchen transmission. And as he was coming into Taoist practice, he recognized, this Wuweidao, which is one of the multiple streams that was part of the Liu family tradition. This Wuweidao is something that is, it predates Taoism, and it underlies Taoism, and it is at the apex of Taoism. This is Dzogchen. This is Taoist Dzogchen. And so Liu Ming read the Tao Te Ching as a pith teaching of Dzogchen. And his teacher, whom I call Old Master Liu, corroborated. Indeed. So in Liu Ming's teaching, he integrated a great many arts, very sophisticated feng shui practitioner, very sophisticated Chinese astrologer, also nutrition, some physical exercise, dream practice, some ritual. But all of these so-called practices were all, the way that he presented them was sitting on the foundation of Wuweidao. They were not practices viewed from a kind of Hinayana perspective where we work, cultivate to get toward this, what in Taoism is called immortality. That's a low view teaching. It's a low view teaching to say these practices are here to bring us toward immortality. The Wuweidao view acknowledges that where we actually are is resting on a ground that was not born at any time and does not ever go away. And that's actually what we are. We do not have to work to get there. It's where we are. To the extent that we don't quite either believe this or we're, to the extent that we are not feeling our intimacy with this perpetual original ground, then let's have some practices that can introduce us to our nature. So, of course, the central practice is this Dzogchen, sitting and forgetting, where it is Zazen, basically. It's Taoist Zen. Stable base and an upright spine, and we just sit. There are no concepts, there is no effort. It is the practice of Dzogchen. But if we really see it as a practice, that's probably even too much. Zowang is there before we try to do Zowang. We need to understand this. But we can also engage Dao Yin movement practices, some altar rituals, some tea ceremony, right? And these are ways to engage, support, and express our inherently luminous nature. They're not geared toward attaining. So again, we're kind of wrapping it up here. These three vehicles, the three turnings of the wheel of Dharma. I cannot really speak to what other Taoist groups are doing. But what we are doing is engaging what I refer to as the orthodox Wuweidao is the Tao Te Ching. And we look directly at, I use Wang Bi's version of the Tao Te Ching and look directly at the Chinese characters. And so we have a fresh translation that comes with a commentary, and the commentary opens up the chapter from the perspective of this view. And this view is also present in Liu Ming's version, translation and commentary of the Tao Te Ching. So I think I'm going to wrap it up. Let's just sit in silence for a moment. We cannot try to do Zowang. And when we have a Zowang practice, we are going to try to do Zowang. That's just the way it is. But we don't enter by trying to do Zowang. So we have this kind of suite of practices. We have a routine where we just gonna sit there. And at some point, the method will just dissolve and we just enter direct without any effort. It doesn't come from our effort, but there is an opening. An opening.